Hey friends, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Today I got to interview the fabulous Jeff Klubeck from A Klu Inc. I'm Shannon with Life Inspired by Shannon Parsons. Come on inside and prepare to be inspired. Hi, welcome friends. I am here with the multi-talented, the most awesome Jeff Klubeck.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much for letting me come into your home and interview you. I can't tell you how much this means to me.
Okay, then don't.
Okay.
Then don't. We'll just keep that a mystery.
So, Jeff, you have been an instrumental part in my own personal growth. You have been my coach, my mentor, and now my partner in crime, collaborating on future projects. I know what you've done for my own life. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started coaching the masses, traveling all around the world, and creating change?
Oh, wow. The first time that I saw myself as somebody that can help other people was like in junior high. And it was this cute story, and I hope my mom is watching this video somehow, some way. For some reason, I was the guy that people would just call and share their stuff with. But my mom, one particular day, she was waiting for me to get off the phone. We only had one phone line in the house. She was listening to my side of the conversation, and she heard that I was counseling. I thought this is just what friends talk about. To me, it was normal. But all of a sudden, I was looking down at the desk, and all of a sudden, this hand slides in, and it's my mom's hand, and underneath it was a Post-it note. And when she removed her hand, on the Post-it note, it said, "The doctor is," and there was a box for in and a box for out, and she checked in. And get emotional thinking about it, but I remember, and I looked over at her, and she was basically letting me know that I was doing something above and beyond friendship for these people. And that's the first time I ever thought of myself as somebody that could help somebody else. And it didn't mature into a profession until many years later.
So you were destined.
Now I like to, it's fun to say that, right? It's fun to feel that way. I don't know if I was, but I could tell you that I believe that I'm on the planet to help people. That's what I believe. I talked a lot with people about life purpose and meaning of life. What do you think life is the meaning of? What do you think your life means? And I'm pretty clear about the fact that I'm here to have fun helping people.
I love that, because whenever I am with you, we're always having fun. No matter if we're working or hanging out, there's always an element of fun involved.
You know, to that, I like to say this personal, professional growth stuff is hard enough. Yeah. You're just overcoming a limiting belief, or rewiring an emotional addiction, or rewiring the neuro associations in our head. Whatever it is, any form of growth is going to involve some growing pain. It's hard enough. So why do we have to make it harder by taking ourselves seriously? Can't we just have a good time, crack a couple jokes, and grow?
Well, you raise a good point, because if there's the part of you that would like to think that you were destined to help other people and you'd like to have fun and not take life so seriously, would you share with us a time in your life where you did take yourself too seriously and what you did to overcome that to be where you are now?
It's a hard question. My ego is fighting this, right? I've never taken myself seriously. What are you talking about? I'm perfect. You hear the ego inside, right? What comes to mind is when I was getting a master's degree, when I was getting my master's in communication. And a master's degree, it's an immersive experience. And at the time, thank God, I don't know how I came out of it, but love of my life, Marianne, we were dating at the time, and I've been in love with my wife for a long time, since 1991. So when I decided to go to graduate school and she decided to work, it was different. Like, it was hard to relate. And I saw other husband and wife teams where they started, one of them started off graduate school married, and by the time 2 years later, 3 years later, it's a divorce. Or, relationships break up, and, the perception, and I'd say this legitimately, like my mom or my now wife, then girlfriend, or my brother or my friends or whatever, would easily tell you, oh, Jeff's taking himself too seriously. So I'd say, fall on the sword a little bit and say that's a time in my life where I was transforming. I was getting that master's degree, and I wasn't intentionally taking myself seriously. I was just immersed in that environment, because there wasn't time for anything other than study and get the work done and get the grades and move on, etc. I don't know. I take my work seriously. I take my words seriously, but not myself. Not myself. I'm a bit of a jackass, behaviorally. I'm always cracking jokes, but I just like making people laugh. It's addicting. I was a professor, as you know, taught public speaking for 20 years. And people are afraid of public speaking, so I used humor to get people past their fear through the learning and to finish what they'd started in terms of giving speeches. And when you say something and people laugh, I can't describe how good that feels. Even if 9 of my jokes are horrible, if I get one laugh, I'm going to keep going.
That's great.
Yeah.
I just snorted.
Yeah. Well, there you go. See, I can't tell you what it feels like to get somebody else to snort.
I'm so excited with everything that you just said,
Mhm.
because you know that one of my passions is actually working with teenagers.
Yeah.
And when I go and I volunteer in the high schools, the kids get so stressed out because they think they need to know what they're going to be when they grow up, because everybody's always asking them,
What are you
what are
going
you
to
going to be? What are you going to do? What's your path? How are you going to get there? And a lot of these well-meaning parents and teachers are trying to guide our youth.
Yeah.
But a lot of the kids just don't know.
Right.
Do you have...
Which is the truth.
Right, right. And I didn't know that I was going to be doing this. I'm 40 years old, and here I am interviewing you. I didn't know this was going to be on my path.
Like, even with my mom writing that note, I didn't know that I'd be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions that you would encourage parents to ask their kids, or that people could ask themselves to help them find their life purpose, so that they can set these goals, so that they can feel like they're on a path?
Oh, wow. What a can of worms. I mean, this is such a big deal because what are we talking about? Are we talking about parenting?
A little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I believe the number one, you know what I mean? Like, you understand why I'm asking that? Because that's a loaded question. There's so much going on there. What would I advise parents?
What could parents ask their kids in order to help them find their own way?
How can I help? Will you ask me if you have a question? Do you trust me to talk about this with you? Would I be in your way or out of your way if we were to talk about this? In other words, all the questions would basically be along to communicate, I'm here for you if you need me, and otherwise I trust you. Right? And so if a parent could communicate that, that would go a long way. The problem is it's not all the parents' fault, right? And the parents just want what's best for the kids. So when I judge by intent, not the action. That's a tough thing to do. Most people are going around judging people's actions rather than saying, well, what's their intention? And kids, if there's any 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, please judge your parents by their intention. Yes, they're suffocating. Yes, they're judgmental. Yes, they cramp your style. Yes, they can be embarrassing, especially if you're around your other friends. Yes, 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 yes. And yes, they love you more than you'll ever know. And yes, you're everything to them. And so please give them a break, cut them some slack. They just want you to be healthy, happy, productive, and so forth. The problem is that sometimes we want so bad to the well-being of our kids that we end up pushing that further away. I was sharing with you an anecdote earlier before we started recording about, think about a 2-year-old that's up on their feet and experimenting and putting stuff in their mouth and exploring the world. And in an effort to keep that child safe, no, don't stop, wait. No, don't stop, wait. And how many times does a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old hear in their head, no, don't stop, wait? And is it any wonder why we grow up thinking that our parents are out to get us, that our parents don't want us to have any fun, that our parents are restricting us, that our parents are the problems, our parents are the ones that are holding us back, our parents are the ones that won't let me. I want to do this, but my mom won't let me. I want to do this, but my dad says it's a bad idea. Well, if we just judge intent, my parents just want me to be happy, right? So sometimes they'll take a safe route, a conservative route, etc. So there's so many layers here. Maybe the parents were never conditioned to think like an entrepreneur, but the child somehow can. Right? So how could the parent ever encourage that entrepreneurial spirit within the child? It's not safe, there's risk, etc. So I mean, what a can of worms this question is. I think the number one job of a parent is to get their kids to independent as quickly as possible. Right? It sounds weird, but I can't wait to I'm just friends with my kids. Where they can take care of themselves. Like as far as finances, and they can read books or consult coaches or, information sources for, they'll go to college, they'll learn about life. And I'm just here if they need me, and otherwise to enjoy lives together. Like, hey, here's what's going on in my life. Isn't that cool? What's going on in your life? Awesome. Want to go to a ball game together when you're in town? Cool. Hey, let's go see a play. Whatever. I just want to be friends with my kids. But I got to get through this parenting part first. And it's tough. So how do we let them know, hey, I'm here for you if you need me? But I'm not going to make this decision for you, suffocate you on this. I'm not going to judge you, right? I had this conversation with my 13-year-old son. Girls and stuff. I said, hey, we don't want you learning from other people. We'd rather you learn from us, but we understand sometimes it's not comfortable, but we want you to trust us. We want you to know that we'll never judge. We're here for you for anything that you want to talk about. We're just here, and we hope that that's good enough. So, and then you I don't know, you pray. I don't know after that. And there's no answer. There's no answer to the parenting thing.
Yeah. Well, I know that you are a dedicated father,
Yep.
dedicated husband, dedicated to your coaching business. Can you tell us what's next for Get A Klu Inc.?
Get a clue. Well, the big thing that I want to talk about, I think the world needs more coaches, more good coaches, more coaches that really understand some of these dynamics that I'm laying out there. And as a matter of fact, like back to kids, unfortunately, a lot of it comes from parenting, but so much of the school system, right? The teachers and standardized testing, and because college is a big business. So college and this, do you know what I'm saying? It's like these kids are caught in this rat race, and basically kids are addicted to stress by the time they're 18 years old, right? I think that's a big problem. So why do I say that? Because kids can learn anything they want to learn now, right? So I don't even think, this may sound weird, but I don't think we need teachers anymore. I think what we need are coaches, right? And that the kids should be teaching each other, right? A coach will help the kid love themselves. A coach will help the kid understand a strategy for research, right? And then if you get a kid to love themselves and you show them where the library is, or show them where Google is, they'll go do it,
Yeah.
right? But if you tell them what they have to do, they'll resist, even if it's what's good for them, right? So that's one example of where the world needs more coaches. And you could then do professional studies about organizations that have made investments in coaching for their organizations and organizations that don't. Organizations that create cultures of accountability and personal and professional growth. Organizations that create budget for personal and professional growth of their people, or they have some sort of coaching program, either an external coaches coming in or coaches being trained and groomed from within, right? Leaders being given the skill sets of coaching. Those organizations are more productive. They have higher employee retention rates, they have less turnover, better profits, on, and they're reported as the best organizations, to work for with all of the surveys out there. So anybody can do their own research about organizations that embrace coaching and organizations that don't, or kids that feel that they're coached and loved and heard and supported rather than shoved into a box and a standardized test and being forced to decide what they're going to do with the rest of their life when their hormones are going crazy at 18 years old or whatever, right? Unrealistic expectations. So I developed a coaching and leadership training program that I've been able to train people one-on-one how to coach the way I coach. I've been able to take this into organizations and teach, train supervisors, managers, directors, VPs, how to get better performance out of their direct reports. The difference between management and coaching, like managers manage to the number and the metric and the shareholder and the profit motive, but a coach coaches to somebody's potential, their meaning of life, their purpose, right? So there's a huge difference there. And when organizations can get their leaders to coach the performers rather than manage them, right, then the results are unbelievable. So whether it's in education or a nonprofit or in for-profit, I think the world needs more coaching. So I developed the Get A Klu coaching methodology, which is motivation plus accountability equals results. And that's what I teach people in my training. And it's also born a little bit out of pet peeve. I'll be honest. When I went through my coaches training program, the things that I was unhappy with or dissatisfied with about the program, instead of complaining and causing a ruckus while I was going through the training, right? I just made a note. All right, I'll just do my own. I'll do my own, and it'll have this instead of that. It'll have this instead of that. So part of it was like a promise that I kept to myself, that instead of complaining about the training I was in, which would have kept me from achieving my goal in that training, I was just gonna, well, take it, leave it, or change it, right? Take it, leave it, or change it, right? So I took it, I left it, and then I changed it, right? And so now, like, basically my coach's training has what I love that the coach's trainings that I went through myself didn't have. And that's not to criticize the programs that I went through. That's just to be proud of the program that I created. And it's still in its infancy. I've trained, I don't know, less than 50 people so far. So when I get to the point where I've trained 500, 5,000, 50,000 people on my coaching methodology, this world could start to become a better place.
So beautiful. My mind, my ideas are just exploding right now. Like, wow. Oh, one of the things I love about what you just said was that you saw something that was wrong or
That I didn't
negative
prefer.
or that you didn't prefer. And with my clients, when I'm working with somebody, they usually get to a point where they say, "Oh man, I'm still looking at the negative. I'm still seeing the negative and noticing what's wrong in the
Yeah.
world." And I love, because what you just said is what I tell them as well, is noticing doesn't mean it's a bad thing. If you look at it and say, "Okay, what's the flip side of this? How can I make this better? How can I turn this negative that I see into a positive?"
Right.
And you created a whole system around improvements that you think would better everybody's potential. I'm so excited to be here. And I mentioned this to you before we even started recording, I could interview you 100 times and there would still be great new content.
Well, let's do it
that we
again.
could talk
Let's
about.
do it again sometime.
So this is part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. This might even be part 1 and 2, so stay tuned for part 3. We'll see.
Okay.
But thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your expertise and your love with me and with all of our viewers.
Well, it's my pleasure. Right back at you. Thank you for doing what you're doing to put the interview series together, for inviting me to be a part of it, and for whatever difference we might make out there in the world. I don't think there's any other reason you're doing this other than your desire to make a difference for your audience. So thank you on behalf of your audience, and to the audience, thank you for tuning in. I hope I get to work with you or see you sometime soon.
Thanks, guys.